What's up guys, today I'm going to be showing you a super useful technique that I use to add more contrast to my shots using the HSL Secondary panel. So I'm working with some FX3 footage that I shot at Lake Tahoe a few weeks ago, and I was shooting in S-Log3, so I've already converted that to Rec. 709 here. And I'm just going to add another lumetri and I'm going to drop it above the Rec. 709 layer. I'm doing that for a reason, but maybe I'll get into that in another video. And I'm just going to go ahead and start with some basic adjustments, and I'm doing this in the color wheels panel because I just like the way it adjusts the image a little bit more opposed to the basic correction. So I'm just going to start with my midtones. I'm just going to drop them down. I just want to look at his sweater here and make sure that it's a little bit darker. And then you'll see we're losing some information in our shadows and the tripod legs and this post here, so I'm just going to bring up the shadows a little bit. And I'm just going to boost the highlights just a tiny bit. And I just want to make sure I'm not losing any information in the sky over here on the left side. So let's turn that off and on again. It's looking pretty good. Alright, I still think it could use a little bit more contrast though, so I'm going to show you guys the technique that I use to add some more. So I'm going to go ahead and add another lumetri. Just going to drop that below the 709. And if I wanted to add contrast with the basic correction, you'll see that my shadows will start clipping the black pretty quick, and my highlights will also start losing some detail. Just turn that off and on, you can see that it's just not looking too great, in my opinion. So I try to avoid that. Just gonna rename this layer to mid, because I'm trying to add some contrast into our midtones, specifically Jason's sweatshirt and the hills back here, and maybe a little bit in the sky. So I'm just going to go into my HSL Secondary panel, and I'm going to uncheck the hue range and the saturation range. And what that'll do is allow us to only target the luminance range. And then I'm just going to use the luminance slider, and I'm just going to kind of drag out the bottom so I get a nice fall off. And I'm going to switch over my view mode to color/black to really get a good idea of what I'm targeting. So everything black is not being targeted, and I want to make sure that this cloud on the left side isn't being targeted, because if I add contrast to it, it'll start to clip pretty quickly and I'll lose a lot of information. So I'm just going to drag this over, make sure it's not selected. I also want to make sure I'm not selecting the shadows down here, because those will also lose some information if we add contrast to them. Alright, so I think selection like this is looking pretty good. We can adjust it later if we need to. And then I'm just going to go down here. I'm going to add my contrast here instead. And already that is looking a lot punchier. So I'll just turn that off and on again. I still think you could use a little bit more though. So I'm going to go into the triple wheel view here, whatever you want to call it. And I'm just going to drag up these highlights. And you aren't adjusting the sky here because your selection is only targeting this range of the luminance range. And the sky is somewhere around here. So you don't have to worry about that. So I'm just going to pull the highlights up a little bit, and I think I'm going to drop the midtones down and maybe add a little bit more contrast. I can even bring the shadows up here. Just get it looking a little bit brighter. Drop the midtones more. It's a lot of push and play with these sliders for sure. I think something like that is looking pretty good. So you can see it really adds a lot of punch. And it almost looks like we're losing a little bit of detail in the sky here, so I'm actually just going to adjust my selection a little bit. You can see we're still selecting quite a bit of the clouds, so I'm just going to bring this back a little bit. See what that's looking like. Let's turn that off and on. It's looking pretty good. I think I'm going to drag up the shadows here. His face is starting to look a little bit dark. Just drop the midtones even more. I think that's starting to look pretty nice. So yeah, if you guys want to see some more lumetri color grading tips out of me, then let me know. I'll see you guys next time.